Direct to the heart, direct to the world. Hello everyone, welcome to bilingual TV program Telling China's Story. I'm Liu Fang from Shenzhen, China. Green. When we mention this word today, I believe that everyone's first reaction is that it is not just a color, right? But also an environmental protection concept rich in meaning. So it can refer to green travel, using e-vehicles, cycling or walking, replace fuel vehicles. It can also refer to green consumption, such as reducing the use of disposable tableware and paperless office. Or it could also mean green production method, like green ecological agriculture and new materials and clean energy. So it sounds easy to understand, right? But actually, it will change the entire operation of the economy and raising high demands for the transformation of current industry and the energy structures. So how can we form a new consensus in the society dominated by traditional economic development models? In China, there is a very wise saying that goes, 绿水青山就是金山银山. Clear waters and green mountains are as valuable as mountains of gold and silver. So today, we are very honored to have two guests here. Let me introduce to you Dr. Puan Kim Tan, TAR UNT Associate Professor in the Department of Marketing from Malaysia. Welcome. As well as Mr. Sha Lu, Senior Researcher from the Chongyang Institute for Financial Study at the Renmin University of China to share their views with us. Okay, so first, let's invite Mr. Sha to share China's experience in green economic development. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sha Lu. I'm from Renmin University of China, which is located in Beijing. Well, about the green development in China, I would like to share with you stories. First of all, a story of myself. Okay, I actually went to college more than 20 years ago. Okay, I entered college in the year 2002, and also I went to Renmin University of China, which is in the western part of Beijing. And back then, in the beginning of 21st century, 2002, it's not like today, because in 2023, they have counted the number of days with blue sky and white clouds, clean energy. Okay, in the year 2023, the number of days with blue sky and white clouds and clean energy, well, actually more than 320 days. 320 days, that's a lot, okay. But back then, 20 years ago, almost more than 20 years ago, in 2002, 2003, when I entered college back then, well, if you would ask me, if you would ask my memory about Beijing, particularly Beijing in autumn and in spring, it was like very foggy. It was like very kind of misty, and rarely could we see blue sky. Rarely could we see something like clear mountain and green water. In 2003 spring, I actually asked a lot of friends to go outside to celebrate the birthday. I had a very kind of fashionable bicycle. Well, that day, I still remember very clearly. That day was very foggy, and it was like in the air. You could smell the sand. You could smell those kind of sand, in the air. And then at night, it was raining, and it was very heavy raining. Do you know what? When we finished our kind of dining, when we went outside of the restaurant, I discovered that on my bicycle there were a lot of mud point, because something in the air and heavy rain created a lot of mud, and those kind of mud left a strong mark on my bicycle. After almost 10 years, in 2014, I graduated from Hong Kong U with a doctorate degree and went back to apply job in Beijing in Renda. Back then, still in the spring, I felt like the spring in Beijing in the year 2013 and 14, it was very kind of clear, air and blue sky and even white clouds and even those kind of green trees and green grass, the road. So this is a very, very, observable and a tangible change. Second story is about a place. This place is named Sai Han Ba. Let me ask you, do you know where is Sai Han Ba? Or have you ever heard about this name, Sai Han Ba? Okay. If you do not kind of know where Sai Han Ba is, have you ever watched a TV program about the Qing dynasty? And the name of the TV program was very famous, actually is very famous, 还珠格格 都看过吧? Okay, especially the 第一季, the season 1, 还珠格格. In the very beginning of every episode, you still remember the scene? You still remember the scene, of course, with those kind of very strong kind of a song, okay? But the thing is that the emperor Qianlong and his sons and all these kind of so-called generals, they were riding horses on those kind of very grassed land, and that place is Sai Han Ba. So when Qing dynasty, although it was located in northern China, near Inner Mongolia, there was no sand. There was no sandstorm. It was like in southern China, with mountain, with grass, with trees, and even with what? Even with elephant. Do you know elephant was back in northern China, not like in southern China. Elephant was in northern China. Okay. Since 1860 until 1960, that place became desertified. Do you know what is desertified? Desertified means that there was no more forest, there were no more grass, there was no more green trees, there was no more conservation, there was no more lakes, a pond, there was no more all this kind of thing. It has gradually become sand. It has gradually become desertified. That's why in 1950s, in 1960s, China, Beijing, had encountered the first serious sandstorm ever since the founding of People's Republic of China. So if we try to watch back then the documentary and those kind of things, we could see a lot of people wore very heavy mask, okay? And then after another 60 years, after another 6 decades, in 2020, this place with the name of Sai Han Ba got renewable, and it has become green again. There were a lot of high trees. There were a lot of this kind of green, grass and green energy. And even though this kind of the trees could be cut down and be sold to the outside world to make a lot of money. So the Sai Han Ba story from 1760 to 1860 to 1960 and to 2020, the change or the transformation of the Sai Han Ba has been telling us, if we do not care about the nature, if we do not care about the place or the environment that surrounds us, we would be, just the next one to leave or to, sit beside the sand. I would like to do some kind of a summarizing or generalization. First of all, green development is not only about planting trees, is not only about preserving some kind of grass, is not only about saving one kind of chopsticks and other kind of thing, but you guys are doing very good because everyone, I see everyone is bringing, a very huge bottle, right, with a lot of water. Not like me, because I would like to buy a lot of Coke every day. So shame on me. I should change my kind of way of living. And the other thing is that green development is not only about economy. Green development is about way of living, way of thinking not only our generation but next generation. And then green development is not only the task or not only the responsibility of developing country. Because nowadays, when we talk about development, green development or green economy, it was like most of the countries who are doing green development or that are doing green development are developing countries. The developed countries, it appears that developed countries do not have this kind of responsibility. No, it's not like that. Green development is the responsibility and a task to each and every country in this world. Only by doing so can we have a better world. Only by doing so can we do good for our next generation. That is my understanding about green development. Thank you very much for listening.
Hello everyone. So we talk about green technology today. So you have heard about what Xia Lao Sư already discussed. It is not about just planting trees. It's not about just like bringing the recycle bags, but we need to do more as a citizens. Okay. Just now talking about EV cars, right? So the one that EV cars that in Malaysia that you all every day you are seeing, okay, it is pure EV, which is we call them as zero emissions, correct, right? Okay, but like what just now the handsome boy mentions that probably you don't wanna choose EV car because of the price, okay, the electricity price. One thing is that when you see charging stations, right? Malaysia, the facility of charging stations, since last year June, we have around 1,063 charging stations. We are thinking about to increase to 10,000 in 2050. However, because the charging station is less, it have created anxiety among consumers. What are the anxiety? See, if now I'm traveling to Johor, okay, from here to Johor, let's say probably 4 to 5 hours. So happily driving my EV car, wow, so smooth, okay, everything so nice, okay, futuristic. Then I found that my battery is dropping. Wow, 60%. Never mind, 1 hour, step faster, 100 to 110. Then you see 60, 40, 30. That is the time that we are having anxiety. Where should I find charging power? Okay, the charging station. This is one issue, facility issue. Okay, so that's why question always back. Should we start producing a more environmental friendly vehicles okay, at the beginning like hydrogen, and then the whole way until our consumption part will be zero emission. So that is one of the ways that we get rid of the food waste. Second way we get rid of the food waste is through the incinerators. Incinerators means that it is a technique that we burn all the food waste. Okay, when you are doing burning, what coming out? Smoke, okay, greenhouse gases, it still also is polluting the whole world. So that's why we are thinking about coming up with a new technology about this agriculture, which this technology is gonna be the insects. The insects, I brought some of the insects today. The insects now, we are talking about black soldier fly. So for these black soldier flies, right, this kind of insects, very good in processing the food waste. After it processes the food waste, right, the poo-poo from the insects will become the organic fertilizers. I have two. This one is the insects that you can eat. Okay, you can eat. It's black soldier fly. Very tasty, crunchy. Okay, if you want to try, you can actually try it. You can pass around and have a look. So when we are talking about green technology, a lot of different sectors we can actually help. Okay, lower down the whole carbon emission, because as a Malaysians, you know that we need to achieve our carbon neutral country by 2050. So that's why we are all responsible to become helping the countries, helping globals, okay, to solve all this climate change. Okay, so that's why we mentioned that green technology is not individual can do it. Okay, it's not a country that we can do it. It needs to be corporations. It needs to have a lot of works among different countries to solve all these issues. Okay, so today is just my presentation, and if you would like to have some to bring back home also, please feel free to do so. Thank you very much.
My name is Wise, and I have some question about, like, some Western media has made some negative comment about China's development. They've been using some negative terms such as like overfishing. So I would like to ask Mr. Xia, what do you think about this?
Overfishing, okay, very interesting. as far as I know, China as a member of all these kind of international treaties, China was not kind of let's say a pioneer in this kind of the ocean fishing and other kind of thing. China was kind of a latecomer, is a latecomer in this kind of fishing. So the rules has already been made by most of the kind of great powers, the big powers. So China was not in a position to making rules and changing rules. So China actually in this kind of field respected the rules and joined this kind of the fishing thing and joined this kind of activity while respecting and abiding by the rules strictly, because in China there are a lot of kind of national level domestic laws and domestic regulations also regulating the fishermen's kind of activity in certain seasons. For example, if I remember correctly, in Zhejiang province, okay, in Zhejiang province, because in Hangzhou, it was a kind of the Qiantang River kind of entrance to the East China Sea, right? So back there is a city called Zhoushan, but actually Zhoushan is a lot of island, Zhoushan, island, and Zhoushan Island itself, that was a kind of a fishing field, not only national level regulation, but also Zhejiang provincial, regulation, clearly kind of stating that only within certain seasons, if I remember correctly, that's from May to July, can those fishermen to do the fishing. However, outside or not within this from May to July, they couldn't do this kind of thing. Otherwise, they would be punished. So, in my opinion, as far as I could concern, China, not only as the government but also as the fishermen, they obey the rules. They obey not only the domestic law and regulation but also this international, normal, universal, let's say, standard.
Globally, developed countries have mostly followed a path of pollute first and manage later. For instance, in the mid-18th century, the UK, as the pioneer of the Industrial Revolution, faced serious environmental issues, and China also went through this process in the early stages of development. So, Ms. Pan, how should we coordinate the relationship between environment and development, and how has Malaysia approached this?
In Malaysia, I can say that the sustainable development of green technology is still not very aware, especially by a lot of companies or even peoples here. Just like, for example, how many of you have noticed that we actually got this policy for low carbon emissions, that we want to become a carbon neutral country by 2050? What government is actually encouraging? Do you know that government actually encouraging us to, like, for example, buy EV, go with EV car? Because I say EV got different criteria, right? The latest one is the fuel cell, which we don't know what we're going to happen yet, which is the hydrogen.
As a developing country with a population of over 1.4 billion, in your view, how can economic growth and environmental protection be achieved simultaneously? Yeah, can you share some experience from China?
For developing countries, development task is huge. But environmental protection and ecological reservation tax is also huge. That's why developing countries, including Malaysia and China, are facing severe tasks, severe challenging of both development and ecological innovation. The only way is to balance. The only way is to design, dedicate institution and framework to facilitate the development and environmental protection, right? Not to sacrifice one in order to preserve the other one. We should not follow the older way. We should not follow the conventional way. That's why most of the developing countries are calling for new paradigm of development thinking. I could only provide more examples and cases to support this thing. Of course, development, because the key word of green development is still development. It is not a green underdevelopment, or it is not a green no development. So the main task is still development. In northwestern Chinese region, in Ningxia, facing, you know, all the kind of wind from Siberia, right? Very cold, very dry, and very less rainfall. So how should the local people develop? They try to grow. In Chinese name is 梭梭树. You don't have to water it with a lot of water. You just need to put them in the sand, and it can grow. And also, one of the important things is that the root of the 梭梭树 could be used as a medicine. So this 梭梭树or shadow trees have been widely planted in Ningxia. With what kind of form? With each circle by circle. So if you take a flight from Beijing to Yinchuan, the capital city of Ningxia province, from this kind of overside with a very clear eye, you could see a lot of big circle on the ground, the bank of Huanghe River, from those kind of yellow bank to the green bank with the, you know, widespread of the 梭梭树. So this is, I think, in my opinion, is a typical case of preserving, you know, environment while doing the development.
And Mr. Shah, you also visited some new energy companies in Malaysia. How do you understand the significance of green productivity to the world?
First of all, I also would like to say something about the EV cars, kind of the current difficulty for the EV car. Just now we mentioned that the EV car personally, individually EV car is good. The technology for EV car is good. The problem is where does the electricity come from, right? So is the electricity still made of traditional fossil in fuel, or is it produced by some kind of a renewable energy? Here in Malaysia, there is a very good example that is in Malacca. Well, in a suburb of Malacca, that's the EMPP, Edra Malacca Power Plant. Okay, it is the second largest, the world's second largest G-class gas turbine. I don't know what does that mean. Oh, gas turbine. Okay, just check in Google. Gas turbine is like with the gas, with this kind of a natural gas driving the turbine to drive and to produce the electricity. And when we visited the EMPP, one of the top engineer, the maintenance engineer, introduced to us that this EMPP, all the electricity power produced in that EMPP are purely based on renewable energy, that natural gas. So when you burn natural gas, you only have water and other kind of clean waste. So if all the electricity could be and will be produced based on this renewable, let's say, fuel and fuels, and then there would be no problem for the EV, right? And no problem for this kind of facility charging it, because that's just the technical thing, right? So the most important thing is where does electricity come from? Okay, so just like you mentioned, of course, although developing countries including Malaysia and China has made a significant, let's say, goal of the carbon peaking and the carbon neutrality as their own national strategy, it is not a single country's task to achieve all these kind of goals, like we have just mentioned. Prime Minister Anwar is very right, is very correct in terms of Southeast Asia. Actually, he is very right in terms of the global thing, because for current situation, for the current world situation, do you guys know what is the major problem of international relation? What is the major problem and the major issue of the international relation and international community? It is unfairness. What is unfairness? Those countries or those people who have already made the rules actually exempted themselves from the huge responsibility. They have made the rules, but they do not have to take those kind of huge, grave or heavy responsibility. All these kind of responsibilities were levied upon the newly industrialized economy, the NIEs. So developing countries like Malaysia and China are now trying best to balancing this kind of thing, to trying to making the effort to make all these kind of international rules to be fair to all the members of the international community, not only those kind of countries. So I would like to say, huge task in front of us, but we have to take this road. We couldn't be scared back, just stepping back to the old way of developing the things. Not like that. We just have to, shoulder this responsibility and march forward to the future, because we only have one single home, that is the Earth, right? Yeah, thank you very much.
And Malaysia Prime Minister Anwar has also stated that we have carbon neutrality goals, but Southeast Asia nation cannot do it alone. So Ms. Pan, in your opinion, what are the challenges for Malaysia to achieve the net zero emissions? And why is it said that it cannot do it alone, Southeast Asia nation?
So first of all, let's see climate change. Climate change is not only impacting on one country or in Southeast Asia, it's actually impacting the whole world. If let's say only Southeast Asia is going green, the other country is slowing down in going green, it's back to the original problems. The emissions of the carbon is still very high. Okay, that's why we cannot do it alone. We need to do it globally. Everyone needs to help in this going green. And then when we are doing globally, not only about the country and country, we need to see our own citizen. So our own citizen, when we do not have all this awareness about this environment, if citizens are not practicing it, how the country can achieve going green? Just like for example, if I don't know EV car is good, zero emission, why should I buy? I just continue buying the combustion engine car. So when I don't know, hard for the countries to achieve the goal. So when one country cannot achieve, if other countries achieve, but the carbon emission is still very high. So that's why we need to be collaborate with each and another among the whole globals to help the green technology.
How do you think China and Malaysia can achieve sustainable development through innovation and cooperation in the process of achieving the carbon peak and carbon neutrality goals?
So actually, a lot of things that we can collaborate, and China is the leading on the manufacturing of this plug-in EV and also the BEV, which is the battery EVs. So a lot of things for us to learn from China, especially the infrastructures and then the technologies that you are using. Okay, that's why probably we can have a lot of collaboration and discussions on how we are able to improve the carbon emission, not only through the transportation sectors and maybe also through all other sectors.
I think there are two levels. The first level is this governmental level, and the second level is a cooperation and people to people. So we should have a shared understanding about our current situation. That's the first thing. And we should coordinate our activity in the international relation, as I just mentioned. That's the point. Developing countries like Malaysia and China can cooperate in this green development and ecological preservation.